And your Tabor refund, once again, in the crosshairs. 808 now, 1310, KFKA, 1310, KFKA.com. Mornings with Gail from the CRP 4x4 studios. Joined this morning by Michael Fields, Executive Director, Colorado Rising Action. Hey, Michael.
Hey, Gail, how are you?
I'm doing well. How about you this morning?
Doing well. Can't complain.
All right. But we can complain about what they're doing with Prop CC. That's to be sure. I'm just going to excerpt very quickly a piece that you wrote in the Colorado Sun. You open by saying, if you read Prop CC's ballot language, you'll be hard-pressed to figure out what it's really asking. And I can't help but think, Michael, that's by design now, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. They don't say anything about refunds. They don't say anything about Tabor. They don't say anything about permanent, because if you put any of those words in, people would reject it out of hand. So they went and said, without raising taxes, better fund roads and education, within a balanced budget, with an audit. I mean, nothing about what this is really about. And so what we have to do, over the next few weeks, and ballots go out in less than 3 weeks now, people will start voting on this. But our job is to say, nope, this is about taking your Tabor tax refund, and they want to spend it on we don't know what, a blank check to them, and this is a bad idea.
As you noted in your piece in the Colorado Sun, former state treasurer Mark Hillman called it the Ref C shuffle because that's how it played out before, right?
Yeah, so Ref C back in 2005 to 2010, they made promises and said, we're going to spend this on a few different issues. One of them was higher education. One of them was transportation. And what they did was, they officially put that money towards those things and then cut the rest of the budget for transportation and higher education. So no net money additionally went into these areas, and they spent it on other stuff. And so that's what you could do. You can either change this. They could change it because it's a statute, or they could just say, that money's going there, and then we're going to take that original budget they have, move it somewhere else. And there was a really interesting article in the Sun yesterday saying that Democrats have already overspent the budget next year by $100 million. $100 million. And we knew, they were talking about kindergarten. They said, it'll cost cheaper than that. The price comes in, it's more expensive. They knew that this would happen. And so, with this Ref C money, they've already spent 40% of it for next year, and they don't even have an approval yet.
It's just, the sleight of hand on Prop CC is absolutely incredible. And I'm probably dating myself here, but I go back to an old movie, The Jerk, with Steve Martin, in which he said, the new phone books are here, the new phone books are here. And what that relates to is the fact that the blue books are out, but there's incorrect information in the blue books when it comes to Prop CC, right?
Yes, you have projections on how much money would be in the refunds that they could keep, and that money is already outdated. The Blue Book has to print at some point, so, I kind of understand it. But on the other hand, the projections that the Legislative Council and the governor have change all the time, and they're not even close. So, for example, the governor projects that there'll be $1.7 billion in refunds, would be in refunds over the next 3 years. Legislative Council says $500 million. Like, they're not even close to each other. And they change all the time. So any numbers that you see in the Blue Book are already outdated, and people are going to be voting based on bad information.
Well, and here's the thing. It's kind of a rose by any other name. Prop CC, let's call it for what it is. It's a tax increase.
Yes. Yeah. And that's the thing that really makes me mad about this is the legislature can go and put whatever language they want on the ballot. Us as citizens have to go through a title board and get this approved. It says without raising taxes. The average person, and I talked to anybody in Colorado and said, you know what, they're going to keep and spend more of your money that you would otherwise get back in a refund. Is that a tax increase? And they would say yes. So they're trying to play with the language here. They're trying to get people to not understand what this means and approve it, basically not making a case, but just using, biased language.
Well, and speaking of language, once again, they're playing fast and loose with the ballot language because a yes vote is really a no vote and a no vote is really a yes vote, right?
Yeah, so, when it comes down to it, and this happens all the time on ballot language, but they want you to vote yes to give up your tax refunds, and we want them to vote no so they can keep them. But I think making that case and saying, look, the government has more money than it's ever had before. It's growing by over $1 billion a year, and they're still overspending that budget. How can we trust that this money is going to be used wisely and even go to the things that you say it's going to go to? And that's really, one of the biggest things is that there's no guarantee that this money will even go to education or transportation, and they refuse to prioritize it in the state budget. It's just, if they do it one time and get away with it, giving it to them again doesn't make any sense. And I think as you talk to voters, as we go out and all the different groups that are working on this talk to them, they understand it once you explain what it is. So
right.
Really, it's a race for us to just get the information out there.
So what are you hearing? Because I know you're actively engaged as executive director of Colorado Rising Action. You're actively engaged. You're pounding the pavement. You're getting the word out with a vast variety of opinion pieces. You're making the rounds on radio, television. But what are you hearing from the voters?
Yeah, so basically they like the ballot language when they hear it, right? So you have this initial polling that people have done that shows, if they think it's not raising taxes and it can help these things that they really want, help with, but we all want transportation to get fixed in this state. We want more money to go towards it. They're kind of open to start with. But once you have that conversation and say, look, this is taking away your Tabor tax refunds forever, permanently, you have no decision in the future in this, then, it just automatically switches. I mean, there's no doubt that we will win this if people understand it. Mm-hmm. And so, Americans for Prosperity is out there hitting doors. You have our coalition, the No on CC. We have elected officials that are working to try to get it out. It's just hard in an off year, to break through when people are just surprised. We have an election this year. Oh, yeah, what's on the ballot? People just aren't overly engaged. And so, that's why in the state parties being helpful and some other entities. And so we're trying to get people, especially when ballots hit, that week that ballots hit is going to be so important because that's when people really tune in. So that's where we're going to try to get a lot of, mail and door knocking and phone calls and everything else to educate people. Yeah,
it's kind of sneaky and sly doing this in an off-year election now, isn't it?
Well, yeah, I mean, it just doesn't get as much attention in an off year, and then, with the ballot language. And the other side is just starting the campaign now, and so there's been kind of a dead period where we're trying to get the word out, but it's hard. I mean, there's a lot of Coloradans out there, a lot of people that vote, and really it's just a race to say this is misleading ballot language, it's a blank check, and there's no guarantee where the money's going to go. We have that conversation with voters, and we can win.
Yeah, absolutely. Michael Fields, Executive Director, Colorado Rising Action. How can we get engaged, involved? How can we make a difference, and how can we learn more about you and your work?
Yeah, so ColoradoRisingAction.org is our website, but we really need to get the word out. Anything that you can do, any group that you guys have that we can go and speak to or get the word out, because people don't know about this enough, and, it's going to take that pounding the pavement and talking to people in order to get it done.
Absolutely. Michael Fields, thanks so much for your initiative and your time this morning. Certainly appreciate it.
Thank you.
8:16 now, 1310 KFKA, 1310 KFKA.